Welcome, everybody, to the Living Consciously television show coming to you live from our Denver, Colorado studios. Also streaming on YouTube Live, as well as ConsciousEvolutionMedia.com. I'm your host and moderator, Coach Steve Toth, and our theme today is what's the secret between some of our favorite subjects, sex and money. Our guest today, I am happy to introduce our guest today. Her name is Morgana Ray. She is an author, a speaker, and probably the most well-known relationship with money coach in the world. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to this.
Great, good to have you. Let me also introduce you to our cast today. Right next to Morgana on the left is Linda Dyer. She's joining us from that place where the kangaroos are running around every day from Australia. Welcome to the show.
They're not in my street, but yes, you're perfectly correct. Good morning, everyone.
There you go. And also on the left of Linda is Jamie Lerner. She's joining us from that place where there's windy all the time. That would be Chicago.
Thank you. Nice to be here. Hello.
Welcome to the show. And then next to Morgana on the right is Nina de Verderosa. She's joining us from a place where the lights never go out. And what would be Las Vegas.
Yes, and we also have plenty of sex and money here too.
Great. We can't wait to hear about it. And then last but not least, Tori Kasicki. He is joining us from New York City, the Big Apple. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. And hello, everybody. And listen, are we going to Vegas after the show or what?
I'll show you around.
That would be so cool. But we can probably create the environment probably right here on the show. So I'm going to be depending a lot on our guest, Morgana Ray, because she knows everything there is to know about sex and money. So let's get the show going. So what do you think the biggest secret is, Morgana, between sex and money?
Well, what I've noticed working with people on their relationship with money is I don't think out of the thousands of people that I've coached over the last 15 years, I don't think there's ever been anybody that I've coached where sexual issues didn't have something to do with their relationship with money. There's because both of them tie into really deeper issues around having bodies, being human beings, being mortal, our desire to be loved, what we are told or what we feel we are worth. So it used to be that sex was the taboo subject, and now we can talk about it in a loud voice at a restaurant, and money has become the new taboo subject. So anything that has to do with shame or hurt or betrayal or not feeling worthy is going to show up in our love relationships and in our money relationships. And sex is one of the most direct places to see these common areas of shame and ambivalence.
Great. Would you have some examples for us and for our viewers, maybe your own, or if you prefer, maybe some from your clients?
Yeah. I coached a gentleman a few years ago, and I'm going to call him Bob. It's not his name, but for his confidentiality. And he came to me because he wanted a new relationship with money, and he liked the work that I do, personifying money first as the monster that gets in the way of what we want, and then transmuting that into a lover. The root cause of his money issues was something that happened when he was a child, like 3 or 4 years old. He was just playing doctor with a little girl, totally innocent, the kind of thing that a lot of kids, if I don't know.
Oh, I did that, I admit.
I did too.
I've done too.
And an adult.
And thing?
Yeah. Some of us are still playing it.
And they're not 4 years old.
And an adult walked in, and he had such a feeling of shame in that moment that he carried around into his adult life without even knowing it, and it impacted his relationships with women. It also impacted his relationship with money. And when we uncovered that issue and brought it to light and did some work on it, not only did his relationships with women improve immediately, but he also made $1.5 million 6 weeks later.
So what was the story that he made up about that experience, Morgana?
That he believed that the adult had a negative judgment about what happened. Now, we'll never know. Go ahead.
He didn't tell you what happened when he was 4?
Yes, he did. He did tell me what happened, but we don't know because we can't know because it was so many years ago, and we can't actually get into the head of that adult. We don't know really what the adult's true reaction was. We just know what his reaction was that he had done something terribly wrong and felt bad about it.
So he's assuming that took care of what his problem was.
I don't understand your statement. Could you?
He's assuming. Well, you said. Go ahead.
No, I think he's saying that it created the statement.
I don't think we're asking about the adults. The adults really don't count. What counts is the story that he made up. That's what's real.
That's what was holding him back, both in his personal relationships and his finances. And so when we changed that and got rid of the shame, then he had a new sense of self-worth and confidence, both with really truly around love with the opposite sex and also with his imaginary new relationship with money, who was a hot imaginary French woman who told him to go to France. So the shame went away, and his life improved both romantically and financially dramatically very quickly.
So, Morgana, you changed his belief system, basically, in a nutshell?
Yes, and I like to do it in a sneaky sideways way where we're not talking about conscious beliefs, and we're really not talking about conscious beliefs with money, because I don't think that that's where the problem starts or where the solution starts. We're really looking at the stuff that money represents, which is love, worth, and survival. So we go into the deeper stuff, and ironically, by personifying the problem, the pain, the shame, and then personifying its opposite, I would call it a heart set change, and the beliefs rise out of the change of feeling. Does that make sense to you?
Oh yeah. Well, just a quick question. Did you achieve this through NLP, or was this talk therapy?
I have my own process that I call financial alchemy. It's a 6-step process. There is I took NLP years later after I'd been doing this for quite a while, and there are elements of NLP that explain why this works, because we create this extreme negative state, and it's not specifically about money. It's about usually the best of the stuff that has nothing to do with money, like being embarrassed as a child. Or I met an Australian years ago whose father had committed suicide, and I knew instantly for that person that unconsciously money had killed his father, so he couldn't have it in his life. So we go for the real pain, and we create that intense state that you would know about from NLP, which creates that plasticity that when we get rid of the monster, personifying the problem is really useful, because human beings have a lot of experience getting rid of human relationships.
Sure.
It's real to us. And then we replace that relationship with a new person who we want all those NLP senses, you know, the smell of the person, the feel of the person, the look of the person, what the person says, all that kind of stuff to make it really real. And then you have a new relationship, the complete opposite. And because we created such a state with the monster relationship, the new relationship has a stickiness. And because it's a person, you can communicate with that person.
So this is occurring to me really significant right now. So I thought we were going to have so much for expectations. I had expectations that we're gonna have some fun with sex and money.
We still can.
We're going a little deeper than that.
I have a request. Can we lighten this conversation up a little bit before we just really go so deep that we may just lose some people?
Okay.
Yeah, I would like to ask the question about, do you find that the female clients that you work with have similar issues with power? I mean, is it because I know for men, sex and money are all about power most of the time. And so if they are feeling impotent sexually, they're feeling impotent usually financially. And that's usually an interesting parallel. But what about the female clients? Where is that, what is that all about?
Oh, that's a good question. For a man, what you're calling financial impotence is devastating, because a woman who doesn't have money, at least she can date. But
Right.
a man who doesn't have money, it's like he's been castrated, and it's really, really cruel. He doesn't feel like he has any problem.
What kind of a state is that? You can't get it up, and you don't have any money. That's pretty messy.
You're washed up. That's all there is to it.
For women who are in survival mode and worried about money, whether they have $100 in the bank or $100 million in the bank, really doesn't make a difference. When women are in that mode, we can get very hard and masculine and not trust men or love. So in a weird way, the men get castrated and the women become masculine. Isn't that funny?
Or we cut off our sexual energy. Is that right?
Yeah.
So we disconnect from our sexuality.
We become less receptive.
Okay.
So what I've
So
noticed.
when you say women become cold, is that what you mean? I'm just trying to read between the lines. So women become cold sexually, like they wouldn't even think about it or entertain it?
That could happen, but I've also heard women get very masculine, very combative. They don't let men in. They don't trust them. And as one former boyfriend of one of these alpha women said, he loved her, but he didn't want to have penis wars with her anymore.
What happened with the chemistry? Can I ask a question? What happened with the chemistry side of all this? I mean, if you see somebody that you really like, of the opposite sex, either one, and you've got that chemistry going, especially about a woman, she's going to, she wants sex. She has that chemistry. Mm-hmm. So, does she completely cut that chemistry off as well?
No. I don't think that financial anxiety, for some people, it'll cut off sexuality. But what does very often happen, not always, but this is a pattern that I see frequently with men and women, is that the love they desire is sacrificed because of financial anxiety. Money gets in the way of love.
Oh, I agree with that. Yeah.
So what about very wealthy and powerful women who are, how does that work? Women who are financially very secure and feel very powerful in their place of being financially secure. Do you find that they are open to being sexual or not? They don't need to be.
I don't think it's one or the other. When people love themselves, I think we get turned on and we're sexual. When we've been hurt, we can get shut down. So what I have seen with very wealthy women and men is when they come into that wealth, a really sad thing that can happen is they become the bank and they are no longer loved for themselves. And I coached a wonderful woman, very, very wealthy for quite a few years, who was being used by friends for money and used by men for sex. And nobody was really loving her until she changed her relationship with money, found this monster she didn't know she had the new money honey, and now she's been engaged. Now she's engaged to this hot young Buddhism professor.
I was going to say, now she has a toy boy.
Well, except that he respects her. That there's.
But for how long?
4 years now. They've been going to Bhutan.
And how many years difference is there?
Maybe 10.
No.
I can't help thinking about Housewives of New York. Being that I'm in New York now, and I've been here for about a year, and what I find interesting is that a lot of the new people that I've been meeting, sex and money is really a driver here in the city, and women are pretty much growing up looking for that money, and men are pretty much just out there with that money and pretty much know they can get the pickings of their choice based on how much money they have. And it's such a New York City, in my opinion, is a social experiment.
That's worse than Vegas. At least in Vegas, you know what you're doing. You know what it is.
You know what it is.
You're making, you just made, I think, like the home run observation, because in both of those scenarios, we are objectifying the other.
Right.
And that's, money and sex can be these amazing, life-affirming, wonderful things, and they can also be these horrible, dehumanizing things, too.
They seem to be more horribly dehumanizing here, especially when the average guy is 10 years older than the woman, and the woman generally hates the guy. I'm making generalizations, of course, but based on my experience of the people that I know and that I know of, and then of course now you have reality TV shows, the housewives of course Beverly Hills, of New York, of all the rich places, because that's where you have the interaction. Without that interaction of sex and money, these particular shows probably couldn't exist, or they wouldn't be interesting. So it's
definitely, because living in Vegas is really, this is not, I'm not going to say it's the heart of where the sex and money is, because it's all over the world now, but Vegas is a little bit different, because you get a lot of young women out here that have been abused by their family in one way or the other, sexually or verbally, and they come out here and then they start doing the sex thing because they really don't particularly think they're worth anything, or their body's not worth anything, so it doesn't matter to them. And then they get evolved into the money side of it. And then they don't want to get out of it because they make so much money, and they don't want to go and get a regular job because a regular job is nothing compared to what they make in a day. So how do we resolve all that?
That's a very, this is what I just heard when you were speaking, is so they came to Vegas with really low self-worth, and then they make a lot of money, which in America is how we measure somebody's worth. So what they really want is love.
Yes.
But they're settling for money.
Because they don't care about their body anymore, because they were abused. And a lot of them have been abused, and they say that's why they're doing what they're doing, because by their father, uncle, whatever the case was.
Yeah.
I know a few of them because I'm like helping them and training them and teaching them. It's very hard to get them out of that sort of making, $3,000, $4,000 a week, even more than that. They can make that in a day.
I was actually coaching a woman like that, not a prostitute, but making a lot of money as a dancer, and she and I both knew that was a dead end, and she has very successfully transitioned out of that, and she's living in the most expensive city in the world. The person first needs to feel like there's something wrong that she wants to change. You can't change anything for somebody else. But if she wants a change, then yes, she can make that kind of money in a way that honors her and makes her, that serves values that will make her feel good about herself. Making money while harming yourself is not wealth.
But you're touching on something interesting, because for a lot of women who are sex workers, they feel tremendous empowerment. They really own their bodies, their sexuality, and they feel really good that they can use that as a means of supporting themselves and in a lifestyle that they want to live. So there is tremendous empowerment.
For them, they feel so good, but it doesn't last for long. But also,
they have a plan. They have a plan, actually, that they're going to exit.
Yeah, I just wanted to correct one thing. The women I'm talking about that make all this money here in Vegas, they are not all prostitutes. I want to clear that up, because they are not. A lot of them are dancers. They're the pole dancers.
Of course.
Yeah. So I want to make sure that we don't put them out there as, But because they do the pole dancing, they do the naked one, the half-naked one. There's whatever you want here, you can have, as everybody knows. So just wanted to clarify that point there. They're not all.
Yeah, I actually personally don't have a negative judgment about that.
Nor do I.
Can't make sense of why
people do, though.
sex is legal, but commercial sex isn't. And that's just, my own perspective. If they feel empowered and there's not a problem, then yay.
Yeah.
And I do hope that they're saving, and I hope
Yay.
that they're planning for a future. So because nobody wants to be doing that
The
when
business.
you're 90.
For some women, that's a business, and it could be very successful.
Well, and I have a friend of mine that's exactly like that. We were trying to talk her out of doing something else, and she said, "No, I love what I'm doing," and then she loves it, and she actually has made it. She's on the website and everything, and she's made a big business of it, making a tremendous amount of money. But she's happy. But for how long, I don't know.
If a person is happy, there is no problem. No. But if a person is hiding unhappiness behind dollars or sex of either gender, it's only going to work so long. And I think really happiness and love and living a good life is really all that matters.
Morgana, it sounds like somebody could fool themselves for quite a long time, though, with having money or having sex. A personal experience I had lasted 15 years with my first relationship, where there was very little sex, and I was making a lot of money. So for me, money was my driving force, and the sex wasn't. It was important. I ended up divorced over it after 15 years, but looking back at those years, it's hard for me to honestly tell you what would have been more important to me. Whether it would have I given up the money for sex or stayed the way it was. I mean, it got to a point where I wanted both, and that's when a divorce occurred. But it took 15 years for me to get to that place, and I'm wondering, in general, if there's that mass confusion out there. If you're really sort of satisfied in one area, if you're willing to forego your other human needs for a while or even a very long time.
In our society, and this is probably true, most parts of the world, we confuse love and value and money. We praise and admire sociopaths in our society who have nothing but money. They, who are destroying the planet, but they have money, so they must be admired. And that admiration feels like love to us. So when you say it took 15 years, what did it take you 15 years? And I always believe that a situation stays as long as we're getting some kind of value from it, and then we get it, and then we get to let go of it. As soon as we got what we needed, it's nice to speed it up, but maybe it took you 15 years. What did you learn that made those 15 years worth it?
So, Tori, what are you looking for now, Tori?
Well, I'm looking for. Well, I found balance. I'm not looking anymore, but I'll tell you. I'll tell you.
What balance did you find?
Let me tell you what happened. I traded the lack of sex in the relationship for another relationship where I had the sex. So now I had sex with no love, and I still had the money, and that didn't work at all. That works because
the disaster.
It was probably the biggest mess ever.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, so
it's an interim solution.
It was an interim solution. It put me in a terrible relationship, but I mean it did yield me a wonderful new child. So
it satisfied your sex. You wanted sex, you got it.
Yeah, and I often thought, wow, I could have just used the money to get sex, and just a result, and stayed in the first relationship. And I always thought, wow, that if I can go back and do it over again, and I was already married in a sexless relationship, I probably would have made another choice to be able to have both, keep the family intact. I mean, I guess I'm putting my heart on my sleeve right now, but hindsight is 20/20, and those are for me, sex and money are my two highest values.
Well,
So,
it's, these new websites, Ashley Madison and these other websites are actually helping people stay in their marital relationships while they then are able to go on and have other sexual relationships. outside of their marriage to meet just exactly those needs. So it's interesting. What you're talking about seems in many ways very common and universal.
But it's, you know, it's not. I'm sorry, Steve. It's not a good.
I just hang on for a second. I just feel that we should also share with each other and with the viewers that we, at least for me, I've been through 2 marriages, and those were all in the times when I was not awake and not conscious. And I made a deal with myself and with my partners, knowingly or not. And so I had underlying motivations to be in those relationships. And the first one is very clear. The first one, I married to a 19-year-old, and she was my prized possession. She was absolutely beautiful. And I wasn't clear about this, but it was my DNA programming that took me into that relationship, because you're supposed to, as a man, when you're 26 years old, you're supposed to get married, have kids, quote unquote, and do all those things that you're supposed to do by society and by training. And I did that. And yeah, it ended up in divorce because of this underlying motivation. I mean, I was in love with her at the beginning, but that changes, and it doesn't last. It only lasted.
Did that change just because of the sex and you wanted to have another woman, or did it change because of her being a little younger than you?
No, it changed because she got fat after the first kid, and she wasn't my prized possession anymore. And
but I hope she's not listening.
Oh, she knows. We talked about this. I mean that same woman is my best friend right now, after 40 years. So yeah, she got fat. I got mad, and guess what? We got our first boy to be born, and he basically replaced me. So she was with my son, very intimate relationship for a year. We had no sex. So do you know how pissed I was? Do you have any idea?
Well, I'd imagine you probably went out and got another woman.
Well, that wasn't the question.
Putting myself out there. I know you're not going to answer that, Steve, but that's okay. You don't have to answer.
So what I'm hearing is both sex and money are 2 ways that we're told that we're valued.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and I completely played it out. And here is the second one. The second one is even more interesting. My second wife, I was so clear that what I wanted from her is sex. I was like completely clear, because by that time, I developed, I guess I can say, you know, I was addicted to sex, and so I was very clear that that's what I wanted from her. And she was very clear that what she wanted from me is security and money, because I had a lot of it.
Oh, you were happy.
So we made, you know, like a marriage in heaven. But it wasn't because of love.
You should have moved to New York City, because that's what we do here.
It's so funny. Go ahead.
And I thought when I made this marriage in heaven, I mean I took her to China to be married on the wall, because we wanted to do something so special that it would be one of the 7 wonders of the world that we would get married. And guess what? None of that really mattered, because we only lasted 7 years.
But each of you got your needs met during that time. So
well, yes, I absolutely got my needs met, and so she did, because she had more shoes than she could put in her closet. She had more jewelry that she could wear. She had more clothes that she knew what to do with, because that's all I had to do.
Yeah. So you took care of lifestyle, and I believe there are 3 things that make people happy: love, lifestyle, and legacy. And you got some needs met, but obviously not the deeper long-term needs met, or you would still be together.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I found it really interesting in the relationship scenario, because I never related the sex and the money, I could always earn really good money because I was always a great worker, and I was educated, so it was easy. And when I met my husband, it was a given that it was a very sexually active relationship, and we were together for 20 years, and we made good money. We moved into a beautiful area, a beautiful house. We had a boat, we had cars, we had a swimming pool, and that was all very important to me. But you know what? At the end of all of that, I got bored. And I remember saying to him, there's got to be more. He said to me, you're not responding. And I said, no, you're perfectly correct. There's got to be more to life than what we've got. Because what you just said, Morgana, was about the legacy, about my career. I wanted to put more effort into that. And we actually split up. And I mean, we had a beautiful boy who's 32 now. He's gorgeous. And, you never know what people are meant to bring on the planet. I mean, I can tell you that sex in my life for those 20 years was so important that when my husband got sick and went to hospital, I convinced him that he should come out on the weekend. Because I was horny.
Yay!
Yes!
I did. And then I sent him back. Then I sent him back to hospital. I mean, I can't believe I'm telling you this on television, but anyway, it's the truth, absolute truth. Again, started to get ill with the lupus, and my naturopath said to me, well, you have to go on these kidney tablets. And she said, you can't have sex for 2 weeks. I said, then I can't take the tablets. It's just very simple. And then she started to ask me how often I have sex, and I said, well, every day, twice on Sundays. And she was gobsmacked. And she was absolutely gobsmacked. And then I said, I can't, there's no way I can take those tablets. And she said to me, do you have any idea what goes on with your kidney when you're having sex? And I said, honey, I'm not giving my kidney any time at all. I still remember that conversation. And anyway, I did reluctantly go have sex for 2 weeks and take the tablets for my kidneys because she was saying. But why I'm saying this is that I never ever put the two together. But yes, the money did come in from both of us. We had a beautiful lifestyle. But at the end of the day, it still wasn't enough for me. I had things inside of me that I wanted to do, and in leaving that relationship, I started my own business, and I really loved. Was I very wealthy? No, not to start with. It takes, and then I met a beautiful gentleman and again, it was around sex, because that was really important to me then. I always had. It's just, but you know what? It's very different now. I look at things now and I think, well, I don't want what I used to have. I don't need. I feel really good about me. I feel like I can love me for the first time in my life and have for a while now. And so the other stuff just isn't as important. For me to go overseas, like I'm going to be leaving in a couple of weeks and working with the Pygmies and the Ugandans, that is what I love. To me, that's absolute love. And I need money to do that. So yes, the money's coming in.
So you dropped the sex for the money?
No, I always had the money. I've always had the money since I was a little kid, and my parents were poor. I decided I was going to make money, and I've made money all the way along. I made more than my husband. It was no big deal. Because it was just easy for me. I could work 2 jobs. I had the energy. Work 3 jobs. Work 4 jobs. Whatever. You want something, you go to work. So the money's already been there, and now I want the money coming in because I've got other plans for it. What I don't have is the relationship, which is really interesting.
And do you want a relationship? Are you looking for a relationship, or are you missing it at all?
No, not really.
You covered that before.
Yeah.
I just got to say something. I think the next show really needs to be, because we haven't heard all the cast yet, but probably sex addiction would probably be a great show.
Well, I have a lot to share with you there, because I I lived it for years.
I'm actually
Consequently, now I haven't had any for the last 10 years.
I'm actually talking about you, Steve. I'm worried.
Yeah, very it is, Steve. I'm really worried.
You worried? Don't worry. It's
Morgana,
nothing to worry about.
Morgana,
okay.
I do have a question for you. Between men and women, do you see, what would the consensus be? Are women more gravitated towards sex or money? And same question for men, or you see similarities between the two sexes?
I don't think I understand the question.
Okay.
I think people want both.
Yeah.
You know, back in the 50s and the Victorian era, before that, we were taught that women are not sexual. I see absolutely no freaking evidence of that in real life. I think we want all of it, and I think more than anything, we want to feel valuable.
So between men and women, there's not a lean that's more important for a man or a woman.
I think it's totally individual. It's also based on the time of our life.
Right.
You know, now that I'm in my 40s, I'm just way more sexual than when I was in my 20s.
Right. Okay.
Just as the testosterone is coming down on the guy's side, so we meet somewhere in the middle.
It's so true. For women, as we get older, we are much more interested in sex, and men are a lot less interested in sex.
Thank God for Viagra.
Well, it's not even that. It's more desire, you know, because Viagra can only get you up. But, you know, it's that desire. And I think women are also in they're more secure now because we're able to make our own money. And we're also feeling our sexual prowess. And so it's kind of cool. I think women are a little intimidating these days, to be honest. I think it takes a really secure man to be with a woman who loves herself. I think that's scary.
Very scary.
Yeah, I remember going to the individual dances and things like that, and like for single people when I broke up, and this lady would say to me, "You're so brave, you get on the dance floor all by yourself." And I said, "Honey, I'm not waiting to be asked." I said, I came here for the exercise and the, you know, just the fun. And I said, if I meet a guy, that's a bonus. But it was very different for other women. They were all hanging around the side of the dance floor waiting for somebody. I thought, how old is that attitude? You know, I've never waited.
So what about we haven't talked about this category. We didn't talk about gold diggers, and I'm talking about both sides, men and women. What about them? What's up with that? Silence.
Yeah, well, there's plenty of them here. I mean,
it happens on both sides. It depends on who has the money. An interesting phenomenon is women are making so much more money than ever before, and then we have this idea that we need to marry or date or marry somebody at our level or making more. And I don't think that that's true or helpful. I think what's great about being a financially wealthy person of either gender is especially for women, we don't have to choose the best wallet. We can choose the best man, the best partner.
But what about the man? Doesn't the man feel like, I know a lot of men that are very insecure with their women making more money and out there and doing more
those
stuff?
are not good partners.
Yeah, those are not good partners. No, they're not.
Yeah, you know, then just,
but that's inbred in a man from the beginning of time.
He hasn't worked on himself.
Yeah, we have changed as women by coming out there, whereas men are still men, and they're still trying to be men. But we're kind of, I'm not saying we're overtaking them, but we're definitely up there with them. I mean, we definitely choose now more than we didn't before. We had to be married.
In Australia, more women are running business than ever. It's for the first time in history in Australia, more women are running their own businesses than men, and have come to the forefront. And so like today, I'm going to a business women's lunch. They're everywhere. You know, tomorrow there's another one. The next day there's another one, because the business women are getting together, and one of the things women do is they'll chat to each other about what's working for you, what's not working, how can we integrate that? Whereas the men don't tend to do that. They tend to have that male ego that keeps them, I don't want to tell anyone I've got a problem because it may reduce the way I feel about myself or reduce the way other people feel about me.
Yeah.
There also is an equalizer out there. They're called two websites, sugardaddy.com and sugarmama.com.
Yeah.
It's probably
Oh,
very
wonderful. That'll solve all the world's problems.
It solves a few people's problems.
But you know, the good thing about that, at least it's really clear. At least people are so upfront about what they're looking for and what they have to offer. So there's no deception there. I mean, it's just crystal clear. Now, whether that
sad if you believe that all you have to offer is money.
this is, well, and
Like,
a lot of people believe that.
people are targets of gold diggers. The only person who can fix that is yourself. If you are attracting gold diggers, you're the only one who can fix that by changing what you lead with, changing your own sense of your value, making different decisions.
Yeah.
It's I have a friend who actually has been on one of those sites for probably 10 years, and the reason he does have low self-esteem, but he's also not very attractive. He's also very overweight. He has a lot of reasons for himself why he's not good enough to have somebody in the opposite sex. So he relies on those sites because he sees it as a trade where he can get something more attractive, more beautiful than he could on his own with the mindset that he's currently living in. So
because he has the financial abundance, is that right? And so he's attracting a woman who is looking for that in exchange for whatever compensation.
Correct.
Another route he could have gone is he could have been absolutely brilliant and a great philanthropist. For instance, a man I admire a lot is Sean Stevenson, who's about, I think, 2 or 3 feet tall and has very brittle bones, and married a gorgeous woman, love relationship, because he's such a brilliant, inspiring person, a public speaker, such a cool human being that I totally get how his wife fell in love with him. And that may be more true for women, that we can fall in love with things beyond the first physical package.
Does he have does he have a lot of money and she doesn't, or did she have just as much as him?
I don't know their finances.
Okay, all right.
But it is true that women look at men's vulnerabilities, and I think that we're attracted to that. We're attracted to the humanness of a man, or the man's ability to be intimate, or a man's ability to be sensitive, or a man's ability to be so many things above and beyond just a powerful moneymaker. So
look, I agree with that wholeheartedly, Jamie. Just recently, I was chatting to a gentleman, and we were going to meet for coffee, and somehow he found out who I was, and he got onto my website. I really loved who, he represented. He worked for the volunteer supports. He worked also with dogs and all sorts of things. It was very different. And then all of a sudden he got onto my website and he said, I can't meet you for coffee. He said, look who you are. I said, well, I'm just good at what I do and you're very good at what you do. That's it. But no, we never met. He was too scared to come.
You intimidated him? Oh, wow.
Yeah, he never wanted to meet for coffee. He was scared. Shaking in his boots was his terminology, to come and meet somebody that was like me, that was an author and a speaker. And I said, look, I'm just doing what I was meant to do on the planet, and you're doing what you're meant to do. But no, he was terrified.
Did you ever meet him?
No.
No. Wow.
No, because I didn't know where he lived or anything. I mean, I knew he lived in a suburb near where I live. That's even made it more attractive. But no, he just didn't want to meet. He just found it, and that happens a lot. And sometimes I find that when you go out, you're not talking yourself down, but you don't actually talk much about what you do, or because it can become a turn-off for some of the guys.
But then that's the wrong person for you, Linda.
Yeah.
You've got to be with someone who's secure enough to be who they are and allow you to be who you are. And really, that's where the love comes.
Yeah.
And that's the only reason I lived my husband of 20 years, because he laughed at what I was doing. At the end, I loved him and he loved me. There's no two ways about it. We still do. There's no two ways about that. You see us together when he comes down to Sydney and we go out because our son's a singer. You'd swear we were still an item. We have a great relationship. But he wanted to retire. Like retire. That's like retiring, getting tired, continually getting tired. So, whereas I'm living. And I said, I can't do that. I can't do that. If you want to retire, then you're going to have to do that on that path, because I'm getting excited about this path. And that's the only reason we broke up. And, if we looked at each other, it was just amazing. We just have this absolute connection. But he laughs at what I do, and I cannot live with somebody that is laughing at what I do professionally, because I love what I do. I'm absolutely rapt to get up every morning and be a part of it.
Morgana, can I ask you a question about the lot of young people that are getting married, and they're putting all their funds together, they put everything, and then 4 or 5 or 6 years later they divorce, and for what, I don't know what the reasons are. How can we avoid this? How can we sort of try to get this compatibility back together again? Because it's either sex or money. I mean, it's one or the other, or something's going wrong there.
Well, that's a really big question. I don't think there's a single solution. I personally, I think one of the challenges is that they're getting married young before they know themselves. They're changing, and who they married is not the same person. They're getting married based on hormones. That oxytocin and dopamine and stuff is like, we're high as a kite, not the best state to make life decisions.
That's right.
Why not?
So I would, wait longer to really get to know who you want to marry your life with.
But is it also good for a woman to wait longer, say 35, and she gets married, and now she's going to have kids? A lot of women are having kids at a very late age, and it's becoming very sort of dangerous. We've got a lot of problems with kids now.
Yeah, that is tricky. What is best for our happiness may not necessarily be best for procreation. They are like two totally different things.
Well, what is your relationship status? Could I ask?
I am very, very happy.
Please tell us about that.
Are you married?
No, not yet.
That's why you're happy.
Yes. Well, I feel that this is the guy. We've been together for a couple of years. I'm not in a rush to change our legal status, because everything is working really, really well, and I adore and respect and trust and admire him. And he's hot, and he makes me happy. And I get what he does, he gets what I do. Huh?
Is he younger or older than you?
He's much older than me, 6 months.
Wow.
Yeah, I call him Grandpa. Yeah, he's an older man by 6 months.
That's wonderful. That's very good.
And we've been on the planet long enough to be better relationship people than we were when we were younger.
Yeah.
It could not have worked with us 20 years ago. Neither of us were ready to be grown-ups in a relationship.
And did you know each other 20 years ago?
No. We lived near each other, but no, we didn't. We never met each other. We have a lot of friends in common, but somehow we were protected from meeting each other before we were ready.
That's wonderful.
What's so interesting, Morgana, what you just said is something I speak about a lot, is that we really do go into relationships, especially the older generation, without any experience about how to be in a relationship other than what we see our moms and dads do. And we're expected to just go off and be successful, whether it's money, love, sex, and everything, with zero experience. So I mean, I would imagine today that we're seeing a lot of older, when I say older, 40, 50-year-olds that had the divorces behind them to learn what doesn't work because we didn't get to experience how to make it work the first time, and moving that forward. Do you see a difference between the younger clients and the older clients in regards to sex and money issues?
Let me think. Most of the people that I coach are in their 30s to 60s. It's very rare that I coach somebody in her or his 20s. And I do have that sort of jaded old lady view that, when I hear the naive person, I'm here, I have a lot more experience behind me, so I have a different perspective on things. And I think that when you're young, the only experience you have, the only model you have for a good relationship may be what you saw in a movie.
Yeah.
Which is not very helpful. So I would really encourage people to work on themselves. My experience dating in my 40s was so much better than when I was in my 20s because I was dating grown-ups.
Mm.
And you were a grown-up. You know yourself and you love yourself and hopefully you trust yourself by the time you're that age.
Yeah, I respect myself more than I did when I was young. And that's one of the things nobody taught me growing up in LA is that life gets better as you get older.
I agree. I'm getting older too.
Yeah, but the good thing is we're living so much longer now. So we have time. We really do have time to enjoy those, the second half of our life and find whatever that partner is and that balance is and enjoy the sex and the money and all of it, which is so cool.
Yeah, as long as we know how to handle our health, because there's no money that can fix our health.
No.
So,
that's not exactly true. If you have enough money and you look up a guy named Michael Vassar, who's a super genius in the medical field, he'll find a solution for you.
Okay. Well, we have several epidemics going on. It's actually pandemics, and I'm not going to list them right now, but there's millions of people dying every day. So let me go back to a place. I let it go at the time. I don't know why. But somebody mentioned, is there one single solution to all of this? And I think there is. And I think the show Sex and Money, what we just did, deserves that we talk about that one single solution that I know and see what you all think about that. So the single solution that I know, and this is from my personal experience, is that we have to go inside of ourselves. The solutions to all of our problems, that includes sex, includes money, and everything else, is not out there in the world. It's within us. We all have the answers that we are looking for out there. As long as we are willing to go inside and look and figure out who we really are, like that's how I began my journey 10 years ago. I wanted to know, who is Steve? Like, really? Because
like,
I was...
Really?
Like, really?
Yeah.
And now that I know, okay, everything just got so much easier. And there is not all of this stuff that I'm doing that, is really not, I'm not pretending anymore. This is it. This is me.
And that's taken you how long, Steve? 10 years? So
10 years. It's taken 10 years. Yeah.
This is not something that you can jump into immediately and change in one day. So I think the audience should know that this is.
Well, I don't know. This is what it took for me. It could be totally different for someone else. I'm not saying that.
Yes.
It's 10 years.
It actually can be within a day or with a few hours.
It's so true.
When you're ready and you have the right tools. And I agree with you that the solution, there's this great meme that I saw on Facebook attributed to George Carlin that said that trying to find happiness by buying stuff is like trying to feed hunger by taping sandwiches to the outside of your body.
Good old George Carlin. That's great.
Isn't that
That's great.
Yeah, it's kind of...
That would make a great YouTube video and go viral overnight.
But I have to say something, that my mother and father were married for 68 years, and they got married, obviously, they got married, I'm not going to say what year, but anyway. But they had the most incredible relationship, but they also argued a lot. But they didn't have the problem. They were truly in love because the time they were around, the money thing wasn't there. Though my mother was a very independent woman. My mother did make the money. My father was 5 years younger than my mother in those days. So that was like a big gap. But she was always the one that sort of instigated making money and always but they kind of did it together. And they lasted 68 years of the love and the money together. And they kind of, however they worked it. And it became very they did have their problems. Everybody has their problems. But they kind of worked it. And I had the same pattern. I was married. When I married my husband, he didn't have any money. When I met him, he had nothing. He just went through a divorce, and she totally cleaned him out. So we had a kind of a beautiful relationship starting out. And then we made a tremendous amount of money. But that money didn't affect us, but it did affect the children. He had 6 children, so I had 6 stepchildren. And they all of a sudden, they weren't interested at the beginning, but then after a while, when we had all this money, all of a sudden they were interested, and that was just because of the money. So that was a sad part of, making money and getting money, and that was a bit of a problem. But it was never a problem for my husband and I. So we didn't have that money thing, and I think because we'd laid the groundwork down at the very beginning, and we had this incredible relationship, but it was the children that came in and kind of spoiled it. Things do happen.
Your parents sound like my grandparents, who my grandmother tells me they slept together on the first date. And
wonderful.
And she's 90. He's a boy toy at like 85.
Same as my mom.
They're still having sex and they're still in love. And
that's awesome. That's great. Wow. That's a great example.
My father died before my mom. And my father died 2 weeks after my husband died, and then my husband had a severe. My mother had a severe stroke because I think she was just pining for her husband, my father, and that was 2 months later, and then she left. So it was all like within a few months they all kind of went. But she died of a heart attack because of her. She was missing her husband, which was very beautiful to see, but not for her for the reaction.
My grandmother and grandfather slept in separate bedrooms for 40 years, so they definitely didn't stay together for sex. But my grandpa made a lot of money, so I wonder what I might have learned from that.
And my parents were married for a very long time, and they constantly talked about their sex life to us all the time. It was dinner conversation, which was so bizarre to us as young children. Mm-hmm. And they did. They fought all the time. They worked together. They played together. And sex was just part of who they were, that they shared with all of us, which was really kind of interesting. So, yeah.
But we all have fascinating stories of how long they used to stay together. And we're all relating to how long they were together and they didn't divorce, and now how different it is now, because now the flick of a finger they say something and they're divorced.
Well, my grandfather is my grandmother's second husband. That's just, all of the women in my family get married twice, and I made a decision when I was about 7 years old that I was going to skip the first husband and hold out and start with the second. Still my plan.
Plus, the second husband's going to be the first husband.
Right.
You're going to fool your mind.
Yeah, it's more efficient that way.
There you go.
I like that.
Yeah, so do I. Maybe you should try that, Tom.
And it saves a lot of money, too.
Yeah.
Half.
Would you get married again, Tara?
I'm going to.
Oh, you are? Oh, good for you.
I'm just the Marian type, so.
And does she have more money than you?
What's that?
Does she have more money than you?
At the moment, probably, but that changes because I keep giving half away. So, half, then half of a half. But I've never been worried about that. So I'll catch up with her and pass her, and hopefully this is the last time. I'm sure it will be.
Yeah.
It will be.
I'm running out of time. It has to be.
My mum and dad were together for 60 years. My mother passed away very close to their 60th wedding anniversary, and my dad, I'm just organising his 90th birthday now when I get back from Uganda, and he still to this day, he wants to talk about Mum, and he also says, I haven't got much time to meet that woman that's got all the money.
How sweet.
I think I'm back.
Yes,
well, hopefully soon, Steve, you will have a story to share with us about your new relationship with love and making money.
Oh, that would be great. I'm doing fine. I'm doing fine on the money end. I really have transformed a lot of things about money. the sex, I'm doing great with sex with myself.
That's okay.
Yeah. Tons of practice. I'm really good. I'd like to get in a situation where I actually have a beautiful partner and I know what I'm looking for. So
What are you looking for, Steve?
Well, I'm looking for someone that is really interesting, living from the heart, and really motivated to be in a relationship where we love each other for who we are, and we can accept each other for who we are and what we are, and we can grow together. We have similar interests, and we can grow together and create awesome things together, and continue to travel the world, because I'm not done. I've been to many countries, many places, but for example, I have never been to New Zealand or Australia, so those are places I still go.
Come on down. It's already tomorrow.
And oh my God, I'm feeling that vibration again. Like I'm feeling stuff. Like I'm getting goosebumps right now. So I must have touched
about Australia.
No, about this relationship that I'm describing to you. I'm getting goosebumps.
All excited.
So it's really not about the sex, although sex is very much part of it. But it's really
It could be a kangaroo.
It is really about. It is really about the heart. That's how I want to leave that conversation. It's about the heart, not about the sex, and not about the money.
No, that's what it should be. Yeah, absolutely.
Has anybody ever seen a kangaroo have sex? I've just.
Yep. It's interesting.
Don't have any.
Okay, so I just want to say, Morgana, I hope you're okay. I'm sure that you weren't expecting all of this laughter, and that we take this topic. We do take it seriously, but we do have a lot of fun with it. But I hope we haven't put you off, because I love laughter.
Sex is fun. I mean, come on, sex is good. There's nothing wrong with sex.
Okay.
Absolutely nothing.
No.
Well, and one of the stories that I often end with when I speak is when somebody saw me speak and he came back a year later and said that he had the worst financial year of his life, and I asked him, well, who's your new personified money honey? And he said it was a unicorn. And I said, well, that explains everything. Unicorns don't exist. They don't know anything about money, and you can't sleep a unicorn.
That's right.
Oh my
a unicorn is a unicorn.
Really interesting.
That's the kind of serious person I am about sex.
That's good. Perfect.
But unicorns know everything about gambling, right?
Yeah, right.
I don't know. I haven't asked.
They are in the commercials. There's lots of commercials with unicorns.
Let's not get back to Vegas. Because in Vegas, you can have anything you want. As long as you got money, you can have anything you want here. Anything. And I never thought that.
Including a healthy relationship?
Yes, you can. Yes.
That's good to know.
Yes, you can.
Yeah. Good.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. So, Morgana, thank you so much for being on the network and being Living Consciously TV. You were absolutely wonderful. I personally very much enjoyed you.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me anytime. I think you guys are awesome.
Absolutely. and I love the entire cast, how everybody really got into the show, and wow. If I could, if I could make love to you all, I would. Maybe I would in my dreams.
And that was so
Maybe in my dreams.
Steve, you just made me blush.
I think he's creeping you out.
Okay.
Steve, I'm going to tell you, there's not enough money, brother.
It couldn't possibly be happening. So it would never happen for that. So all right, so awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And if any of our viewers got touched, moved, and inspired, especially this last comment we just made, then keep coming back every week, because you never know what you're going to hear or what you're going to see. So I also want to make sure I mentioned that all of our shows are now have the possibility to, if you pledge in our network, there's a possibility that they end up in the top 10. If they end up in the top 10, guess what? We're going to PBS, Public Television. So everybody needs to watch the shows, especially this one, and keep pledging, and you never know where we end up. We may just have everything that we are asking for. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
I love you all, and see you next week.
Love you.
Love you
Bye-bye.
too.
Bye.
Ciao.
Bye.